Hello there everybody, this is Alex from Hardcore Guys, bringing my guide for Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge on Master Ninja difficulty. Today we are doing Day 7, and I was confused in the very beginning of this run that I thought there was only going to be 7 full days, but no, there's actually a Day 8, and I thought that for a while that I thought, you know, both Day 7 for this chapter and the next one kind of run into each other, and that Ayane also was a part of Day 7, but that was wrong. But this is actually another favorite level of mine, personally. I'm not a big fan of the final boss in this section, but I don't think it's too bad. It's a little annoying, a little weird to figure out, but for the most part, the worst part of this entire section, this entire chapter in general, I should say, would probably just be the chimeras. And they don't come until a little later, so... But then, of course, you know, we have the next chapter after this, and that's going to be brutal. That's going to be a hell of a chapter to go through. Really long, a lot of fights, and just a lot of enemies that do kind of suck. But, you know, we'll get through it, because like I said before, I typically never try to make a guide for anything, commentary-wise, or even start editing things until I've at least finished a game. So that's usually my way of doing things. So if you see me upload a video, keep in mind and have peace of mind as well that unless something happens otherwise, like outside of my control or whatever, then for the most part, you know, you'll know for a fact that, hey, you know, at least he beat the guide, at least he beat the game. So that's always something to kind of be nice to have, I would say, because I'm typically the type of guy that, you know, if I watch people play guides and they just end up doing a whole guide and then, like, just not finishing it, as in, like, they go for as long as they can for, like, a damage run or something, and they upload the whole thing, and then afterward, they just start deleting videos because, like, oh, I guess I can't beat it. Like, that's just not fun. That's not cool. But it is what it is. So, not much I can do about that. But, as you can see, for the most part, you know, in the beginning chapters of this... in the beginning parts of this chapter, there's nothing special. It's mostly just mooks, once again, and just the usual, like, find particular cover. If you're using UTs like I am, then you can just use that to your advantage, and yada yada yada. And just basically knowing enemy placement is going to help out big time. And, of course, I'm also using Kusarigama at level 3, and that's definitely making kind of clean work of these enemies. I would recommend having level 3 by now, especially for the next chapter. You're going to really want that, because the UTs on the Kusarigama are insane. You don't need level 3, but you just at least need it unlocked. I think it's only like, what, 10,000 karma to unlock it, which you get plenty of karma anyway. So I'd say, yeah, unlock it, because just even a level 1 charged UT is enough damage to completely wipe out just the, not chimeras, but like the non-chimera version, like the snake types, the gorilla types. And even then, still, even toward just regular chimeras themselves, the ones that can go between the three, even then, still, I would say it's a really, really good weapon. I don't know why I took a rocket to the face there. That was just a complete accident. Also, if you hear noise in the background, that's fine, because it's just my brother playing Apex, so just ignore it if you can. I don't think it's going to pick up on the mic, but there's a chance that, you know, it might. I don't care. I didn't tell him I'm going to do commentary yet, but I assume he hears me talking. He probably knows, so no biggie. Also, today happens to be Easter, so hopefully everybody had a good Easter or whatever, and, you know, hopefully you ate lots or whatever and found some candy. I had fun, and, yeah, nothing really super special happened, but just, you know, another fun little holiday celebrated with family and what have you, so that's always nice. And, of course, you know, it's kind of late at night. It's like 9:40, so I'm recording this. But I don't mind, because I have another day off tomorrow, and that's key. So, back to the guide. There's a lot of cover in this particular part itself, and after, of course, you know, you kill a bunch of enemies, eventually these jetpack guys are going to spawn, and I'm just going to, you know, shoot them down. And as you saw in the beginning, I did start using my bow to try to just take out a few guys before I came down here. It's not necessary, but something you could do. And I'm pretty much just trying to get some type of UT charges to just get some AoEs going, because these guys are being complete dicks. And also, can I just say real fast that the Kusarigama is one of the coolest weapons that I have recently learned to love in this game. Granted, in Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1, I used to use Vigorian Flail for like very specific enemies and stuff, but never really use it just outside of just specific enemies. But for this game, I started using it, the regular Kusarigama itself, not even just on the enemies that I was going to be good at. You know, I started using it outside of it. Like, as you can see, I've used it for most of this chapter just because it was so fun and so flashy and so cool. So that's how it ended up being. Also, I personally feel like this should have been the last chapter. I definitely feel like there should have been, like, you know, you fight the boss of the chapter and then say, maybe the next chapter is just another final boss or something, you know. Because I personally feel like the entirety of Day 8 is just too much. It's too much to take in. And granted, I've said this before, I still love this game. I think this is still a really good game. But personally, I feel like there's too many enemies. And granted, you know, Ninja Gaiden 2 Original has that same problem, but I wouldn't say it's nearly as bad. Personally speaking, but okay, it doesn't seem like it's as bad. Granted, I mean, to be fair, Steel on Bone does usually kind of exist to make quick work of that problem, but you'll see when we get to Day 8, for those that haven't seen it yet, what exactly I'm talking about. So, this helicopter is going to spawn immediately after you take down the turrets. Just a few, you know, simple, quick shots. Hide behind the cargo. There you go. Take them out. You probably could cheese it by just hiding behind that cover and just, like, consistently aiming in. You don't need to let go of the aim, and you can just keep aiming in. You could probably get away with having some decent cover. I haven't tried and tested that theory, but I would assume that probably works the same way it did in that train chapter that we were on, the one we're on the train, and I used that cover system to my advantage. Stay away from the rockets, just at least stay out of sight, and just stay away from this front door here, and then just kind of leave these guys back here, kill them, pick them off, you know, that kind of thing. It's the typical, usual run-of-the-mill, you know, ISA ninjas, what they're called. Yeah, because I believe that's what their group is called, right? No, their group is called LOA, right? I don't remember. I believe that's what they're called. I used to call them Black Spider, because I thought they were part of the Black Spider, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so I don't know. But upon coming up here, you're immediately going to be greeted with, of course, a bunch of jetpack enemies, and there's going to be one guy that's grounded. He's not too much to deal with. You just kind of just eventually pick him off with whatever combo you've got. Typically some nice, good, easy, heavy attack combos, because that's usually the thing that ends up making him, you know, drop and get de-limbed faster. But I'd say, of all things, just keep your focus on the jetpack guys. Don't worry about the other guy. If he becomes a problem, then, you know, just take care of him. But for the most part, just try to waste the jetpack guys, because they're going to get in your way, and they're going to cause problems, and that's just never fun. So, of course, after you take them out, you come up here, take out this next turret, and there's going to be a ton of them, by the way. There's just seemingly too many damn turrets. But yeah, also, something else I like about this chapter is I like the aesthetic of it. I mean, out of all the Ninja Gaiden 3 levels, I feel like this is one of the better ones. Just for the sake of having the ability to go between different parts of it, and just seems like more of a spectacle. And I don't mind that too much, and I kind of wish more of Ninja Gaiden 3 did it. Now, granted, I've heard the issue that people have with this game and its level design and stuff like that, and I do agree. For the most part, I don't feel like everything is completely terrible, but I do feel like there's definitely room for improvement. And yeah, as you saw here, I kind of jumped on this too early. I jumped on the gun too early, literally, and I got punished for that. So just make sure that, you know, when you're doing this part, you take out all the fiends. There's like 5, 6 of them. There's not too many, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple levels that just, you know, are kind of a bit irritating. And granted, the main complaint, once again, of course, being the fact that it's mostly just boxed arenas, and that there's usually never, like, platforming and stuff. And I'm not saying, like, I don't completely agree with that, because for the most part, I kind of can see that, you know. But personally, for me, I just kind of just enjoy the combat enough anyway that I just don't care. Now, granted, this is, of course, Razor's Edge, and Razor's Edge is just better in a lot of ways. So, again, if you like Vanilla 3, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to make fun of you for that. I'm just saying that, personally, I prefer Razor's Edge over Vanilla 3. And yes, I have played Vanilla 3, for those that are curious. I used to own it, actually, but then I just gave it to my cousin when I saw Razor's Edge, and I'm like, here, you can have this. And then I bought Razor's Edge. So, yeah, I never got to buy Razor's Edge on Wii U, but I've actually considered it. I know I'm insane, but, you know, if you've seen my game collection, you would understand that I tend to buy stupid shit, so that's just how it goes. Like, I have Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, and it's not that, you know, being on the Wii is a bad thing. It's just, well, you know, it's one of those things of like, well, I already have it on PS4 and PC, so why would I bother having it on a Wii? And it's just, I don't know, it's just a novelty, pretty much. Granted, speaking of Wiis, I've recently been seeing, but I've never bought into it yet because I just don't feel like it. I have seen out in the wild, yes, out in the wild at a local game store, Wind Waker for like $90. And I didn't want to buy that. I have the Wii U version, so I'm fine. And then, as cool as that would be, it's just too much. And on top of that, I kept seeing Twilight Princess for the Wii as well for like 40 or 50. And I have considered it, but I'm also just not that big of a fan of Zelda anyway to really just want to go for it. So I just probably won't take that action. It would be cool to have, but I know I won't play it as much. So I have the Wii U version as well, of course. I'm kind of lame. But anyway, so back to the guide, of course. This part is a little bit more tricky than the other part. And that's the fact that these enemies are very, very aggressive and they're very fast. So, of course, what I do is I just get as far away as I possibly can and then just charge UTs. And then I'm trying to essentially hit the Dragon Fiend with it. And again, with fighting Dragon Fiends, you know, being aggressive is something that pays off pretty well. Now, after you take out this first group, the next group of enemies are going to spawn, and if I'm not mistaken, yes, eventually they're going to get worse. That's what I was about to say, but then it just got worse. So, Magna Fiends are going to spawn, and these ones are a little bit more troublesome. I'd say don't worry about shooting them down just yet. Take out whoever you need to first, and then worry about them. So once again, I'm going to do the same thing I do all the time with Magna Fiends, and that's essentially just attacking them from the front, and then wait for them to try to block me, and then put me into a position like that, and then dodge behind them, and then just go for heavies and try to cut the limbs off and what have you. And luckily, their hitbox, or their hurtbox, I always forget the two, honestly, is so damn big that they have trouble just hitting you. Also, something I forgot to explain in this chapter, save up for the True Inferno. You're pretty much going to need it. Now, there is another way of dealing with the Spider Tank bosses, and I'll tell you about that when we get there. But if you don't have True Inferno, you know, you could just use the Wind attack or the Piercing Void. It's Piercing Void. But if you do have True Inferno, if you have 40 out of 50 Scarabs, then save up True Inferno this entire level. Just do it. It's worth it. I'm not telling you exactly what to do. I don't mean to sound like that. I'm just saying, like, just try for it. Now, for the Chimera, I'm going to be focusing on the Gorilla one at first, I believe, unless I'm going for the other one. I believe it's the Gorilla one I go for. So, basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it to where at least I fight one of them at a time, and I'm charging UTs, as you can see. Run as far away as you possibly can. If you're about to get shot with those ball attacks, then just immediately let go of your UT, so that way you can get the iframes and not have to get hit by the ball attacks. I would say go for whoever you prefer going for. To me, personally, the Snake is like the least worrisome one out of all the three of them. The one that's like the ranged zoner shot one is, you know, pretty damn bad itself, but it's only bad just because of the zoning shots, but for the most part stays away and just kind of keeps to itself. And then the Gorilla one is the one that I usually try to prioritize first because it's so damn aggressive and it's so up in your face at all times that I feel like it's a good idea to just run away, charge UTs, and go for that. Now, upon coming in this room, I don't think you can avoid that grab, but so yeah, you're going to be fighting ghost enemies, of course, and you know, they're just simple as can be. They take so much. They're easy enough to kill. It's just, you know, ridiculous sometimes. Because they look like they're heavy. They look like they're heavy enemies, but they're really not. They're just kind of like they're like a mid-balance between heavy and just light enemies. It's crazy. Kind of the same way with mages, where like mages are just way more like breakable than even like the regular enemies, like they seem to just chop down a lot faster, which I kind of like too. Personally, I'd rather just not have to deal with shitty mages, because I've gotten tired of that in Ninja Gaiden 2. I've done my fair share of time on Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma at the very least, and I've gotten sick of him. So, yeah, for those that know the Momoji chapter, then you definitely know what I'm talking about, and those mages are not fun. And I have done it on this channel, and if you want to go see me completely just, you know, eyes bulging out of my head in rage, that's definitely the thing to look into. And speaking of eyes bulging and things raging, I have considered, I don't know if I'm going to do it or not, because I've always been thinking about doing different projects on this channel, and this is not a guarantee. This is just, you know, nothing set in stone, of course. But what if I do a playthrough of a game on hard? And I've actually tried doing that before with my brother on Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, but then we just were so damn rusty I gave up. So I'd say, if anything, you know, it'd be one of those cases of a game that I absolutely know the ins and outs of, and just basically do like a live commentary thing. In a way, yes, it is a Let's Play, but for the most part, it's not. It's just going to be like one of those cases of just a relatively basic playthrough of a game on hard that's edited. You know, it would definitely be a lot more edited than it normally is. Which I could easily kind of just do with, you know, OBS and all that, so it wouldn't be too hard. It's just a consideration. It's not a complete 100%, because there is another project I have thought about doing, but it would require me to actually be good at a specific franchise. And that, of course, is the From Software games, and that is not easy feat for me to do personally. I'm not the best at From Software games. I have Platinum Bloodborne, but that does not mean I'm good at what I do. I like Demon Souls a lot, but that still does not mean I'm good at what I do. Because Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 tend to give me a lot of pain. And I have still never beaten Dark Souls 3 or even Elden Ring, because I'm lame. But, I don't know, I have different priorities. I have other things I want to do. Not that I would consider them terrible games, I just don't really care enough for 3. And Elden Ring's just so fucking big. I kind of just prefer more shorter arcade-style games. But I definitely love Bloodborne, I can say that for a fact. So, but the project idea, and this is probably the worst place to kind of talk about it, because it's just Ninja Gaiden 3, like who's going to be watching this one, right? Basically, the project idea is, just to kind of maybe spoil it a little bit, is me having a specific character name and having this character going on an adventure through the Soulsborne series, at least starting from Demon Souls. I'm not going to go back to Kingsfield or Eternal Ring or anything like that. Although I do like Eternal Ring, I just, you know, feel like it's not truly a part of the Soulsborne full experience. I feel like that started with Demons, and then, you know, Sekiro was involved in there too, but I know people still don't say it is, and but anyway, so basically, going through all of them and doing, like, not a live playthrough, but like an edited playthrough of, you know, I might show deaths or whatever every once in a while, but basically defeating all the bosses and kind of doing like a narration of the game and just pretending that I'm the character. Yes, I'm literally LARPing. You know, LARPing the character, I guess, in question. And yeah, this is a part where I didn't realize I was getting shot down by a helicopter. I just didn't notice. Basically, like, after I defeat a boss, I give, like, a narration of, like, oh, man, you know, that boss was, you know, quite tough. And, you know, they're considered the blah, blah, blah of the whatever, you know, the fool's idol or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. It's been an idea for a very long time, but it seems like a very, very hard project to do, considering the fact that I'm just not that good at Souls games, besides, like, Bloodborne and stuff. So, you know, it's just an interesting idea, but definitely not, you know, something that will happen. But yes, make sure at this part in time of the game you have True Inferno on. If you don't, that's fine. Piercing Void works a little as well. And the thing that we're going to do is, as soon as we land, we are going to launch the True Inferno Nimpo. Now, if you have Piercing Void, simply line the two spider bots up launch the piercing void between them to try to break off their leg armor. And then you might get like 2, maybe all of them if you're lucky enough. But yeah, I've seen somebody try it with piercing void before, and it seemed to kind of work a little bit too. But if you don't have True Inferno, that's something you can do. But if you have True Inferno, then all the armor on the legs is completely gone, allowing you full access to beating down the spider bosses without having to deal with their bullshit. And I want to shout out the person I learned this from, but once again, I don't remember their name. I think it started with an F, maybe even an R. But it's been a while since I watched their videos, and I typically try to keep up with people I steal ideas from. But actually, no, this was a non-commentated guide that I watched for this one. That's right, it was somebody else. So whoever it was out there that came up with this idea, applause to you. This was not of my own accord. So I'm not taking any credit for that idea. I'm just passing it on to the fine folks that want to watch my channel. So, yeah, like I said, again, if you don't have True Inferno, that's fine. You could just maybe use Piercing Void to try to break through it. Granted, you only get one shot with it, but hey. Alright, so next up is, of course, the giant robot boss. The missiles are nothing. You don't really need to worry about them too much. Basically, just... the best advice I can give you is just wait for the flamethrower to come down and then just, like, hide to the side of the arm and then just hit it. Because this particular fight is just kind of a little simplistic for what it's worth. However, I will give you fair warning, though. Make sure you try not to take damage. And I know that sounds ridiculous, and it's just one of those things of, well, yeah, duh. That's like saying, like, don't get hit, you know, Lamau. But I genuinely mean it. If you have a health upgrade, that, you know, that could work too. But the reason why you don't want to get hit is because of the next section where you truly do not want to get hit, because the next phase in this fight will potentially kill you on one hit, and that's not something you want to have if you don't have a lot of health. So the obvious part of this is essentially just, you know, dodge, wait for a specific attack from one of the arms, go in and hit the arm, and then there you go. And, you know, that's simple on paper, and it actually is a relatively simple fight. It's a little bit intimidating at first, but I guarantee you that this is one of the more simplistic fights. It's just that I ended up getting hit by, you know, dumb things of my own accord. So if you're just careful with it and you take your time with it, then it's not that bad, really. Just make sure, like, you know, you understand, you know, when he's about to attack and all that other stuff, and which side you need to get on, and you'll be okay. And then just keep, you know, consistently slide dodging away from the missiles, and then you typically won't get hit by them. I've gotten hit by a couple of, you know, stray ones before, and don't forget also to dodge. That's something else to keep in mind, is a lot of the time these bosses tend to have like a one lasting effect thing that they do. So now this is where things are going to get tough. So immediately after you spawn, just go for, you know, an instant shot, and then just dodge. And then go for another shot, and then dodge missiles. Go for another shot, you know, dodge missiles, rinse, lather, repeat, that kind of thing. But this isn't even what I would consider the hardest part of this fight. In particular, the hardest part of this fight, which I assume most people, you know, are probably like me and you kind of struggled with. Well, not only this, but, which, by the way, when he starts to launch the lasers, just make sure you go as far away from the lasers as you can to give yourself enough time to kind of dodge between them. And then immediately after, just start charging up your bow and launching that shot, because it does do multi-hits, and it's kind of nice. If you do get hit by missiles, then who cares? But from here on, you do not want to get hit at all. But this is the part that I was talking about that's going to be a struggle. So essentially what I do is just watch the way that I dodge. And because the thing is, this boss has a very interesting pattern. So as you saw, it goes around, what, like twice, and now it's going to go around like, what, 3 times, and then it's just going to stop. It's going to gradually continue to go around in number. Like, it's basically going to, like, the first time, it's going to go around twice, and then it's going to go around like 3 or 4 times, and it's going to go around like 5 or 6 times or whatever. And sometimes it might drop off earlier than that, but like it seems to just sometimes just gradually get worse. So the thing that I'm doing here is, when I'm dodging in a completely different direction that it's facing, if that makes any sense, because it's really hard to explain. But just look at how I'm dodging, if that helps, because it's hard to explain. But if it's, okay, see how it turns left well, then I just dodge right. See, I was turning right, I dodge left. Makes sense? So, like, once it starts getting close, you're going to want to dodge to the opposite side that's trying to face. Because if you don't, you're pretty much going to get hit. And this part, just stand still, go for an evade. There you go. You killed it. However, looking at the video now, we're not even done. And I call bullshit, because I feel like this is one of those chapters that could have done with ending off in this particular section. But yeah, like I said, when he starts to churn in a specific way, like when he goes for the break and he starts to kind of churn, you're going to want to dodge in the opposite direction of that churn, so that way you can obviously, you know, get out of the way of the incoming attack, of course. But that part, you know, I made it look easy, but I died tens of thousands of times just on that part alone. But granted, luckily, you do get a checkpoint after you fight the bipedal version of him, so that's good. That's good game design. You know, they're really nice about that. So this next part, of course, find some cover away from the rockets, or at the very least, shoot down the rocket guy. But to me, he was just kind of too far and kind of hidden. Apparently not anymore, I guess. I don't know. But at first, he was definitely like something that I didn't even notice was even there, so I kind of just, you know, freaked out and panicked. But if you don't want to take out the rocket guy just yet, I know I usually say they're, you know, first priority, but that's up to you, of course. But in this particular fight, it's just kind of nothing. There's plenty of cover I can kind of just hide around, so not a big deal. But as you can see, I'm pretty much just hiding behind cover and just taking them out as I see fit. Just waiting for them to come back here. Maybe you can go for a Steel on Bone, and even then, possibly just going for UTs. Something else that's really cool about Steel on Bone when it comes to Ultimate Ninja mode, for those that haven't played Ultimate Ninja yet, is whenever you're trying to do a Steel on Bone on an assassin, I've explained this in, like, I think Chapter 2, I think I explained this in, but when you're going for a Steel on Bone on the assassin, they will actually try to block your attack, and you have to mash your way through it. Like, you still get it, I mean, unless you're just not preemptively mashing, I guess. But even if you're not preemptively mashing, you can still mash, you know, while the thing comes up and still be fine. It's not that hard, really. They're not that bad about it. Thankfully, they're not fucking God Hand on hard mode. Jesus Christ. Speaking of God Hand, I actually started playing that again today. And man, do I suck. But some of it's kind of coming back to me. I have beaten the game before on normal, but I've never beaten it on hard. I've gotten to, I think, Chapter 5, I think it was called. Basically, I call it Chapter 5, but I think it's like the halfway part of the game. For those that do know, let me just say this. The Virgil enemy that you fight, you know, you're pretty much the Virgil of your game. I think his name starts with a D. I can't remember, but basically the guy that's, you know, like a rival type character. I got to his fight, and then on hard mode, I tried mashing, you know, the circle prompt whenever it came up. Because if I remember correctly, I think you get into like a flurry of kicks or punches or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a while, guys. It's been a while since I played God Hand. And yeah, I just can never mash out of it completely. And I'm the type of guy that when I play Domination on like Mario Party 4, you know, I get like 110 or whatever. And it's like, you know, I'm not the worst masher. But Jesus Christ, is God Hand just abusive with it. Granted, maybe I was too young at the time. Maybe my mashing skills might have actually gotten better. I don't know. It's been a while, but we'll see. I do eventually kind of weaken. But yeah, after all that's said and done, now you're going to be fighting more ghost enemies, of course. No surprise. Yet another group of enemies to fight. That's always fun, isn't it? I mean, yeah, yes and no. It kind of depends. It's more fun to actually fight them while you're playing the game. It's not that great when I'm watching the videos anymore, because at this point in time, I mean, we're pretty damn close to the end of the game. I just kind of want it to be over with, but that's just me. Just ignore that. Just look, you know, don't let my stupid ass ruin your positivity for the day. You know, be positive, be happy with yourself. You know, it may be a struggle now, but you know, eventually something will come around. So I don't know. I don't want anybody to feel down while watching these videos. I want you to feel up and happy. If you want to start feeling a little better, then, you know, do some exercise. Even if you don't feel like doing it, then just try something. Try something small. I guarantee you that exercising and lifting weights and stuff is it's very nice. It helps me out a little bit, so it makes me kind of feel better about myself, because that's the first thing that I think definitely helps, is feeling better about yourself. Because that's the main key aspect in life, it seems, is once you start feeling more confident, you know, your ability to kind of just feel better all around is greatly increased. And fuck these guys, by the way. I just want to say, just fuck these guys. They're, in my opinion, some of the most irritating enemies to fight. But granted, you know, I usually just do UTs on them anyway. I just find them just incredibly annoying to have to deal with at all times. And we fought them so many damn times. And on top of that, you got these fucking cockholes that decide to show up. But next room coming up is Theodore, for those that are wondering, if you're curious about, like, oh, well, you know, should I save the Nimble for the next boss? No. The reason why I say that is because I have a fun little cheese that I'm going to do to Theodore, and he's not going to like it. Yeah, he is not going to be happy with that. So I'd say, if anything, save your True Inferno, or just your Nempo in general, just for those assholes, and get your health back. And then, of course, after that, you know, you got to do the Blood Grip of Death, or whatever it's called, the Grip of Murder, I think it's called. And the Whip of Murder. And yeah, just pretty much just do what you've been doing and not die. So, but this one goes on for a feasibly long fucking time. At least a good few minutes, and that's just never fun. Now, granted, I much prefer these over what the hell Vanilla 3 decided to have, which was basically just Ryu kind of falling down and having to just hit the enemies at like a slow-ass pace. Much like in God of War 2, when, you know, after, you know, that beginning part where your powers are sucked dry. I don't really care to spoil it, because the game's been out for fucking 20-some years now, so I think it's okay. But yeah, so the very beginning part of the game, you know, when your cock is sucked dry, your semen, your balls are empty. You know, Kratos loses all his juice, the pee in his balls, all of it's gone. Now he's gotta, you know, walk all bow-legged and shit and try to kick Zeus's ass, but it doesn't work. That's pretty much what Ninja Gaiden 3 decided to do. And speaking of which, does anybody have any idea of when walk and talks were starting to become a thing? I kind of think, like, maybe Uncharted might have started, but I was talking with my brother about that. Like, we're talking about, like, you know, modern games and how sometimes they just be fucking annoying. And the topic kind of brought up of, like, which types of games had gotten to a point where walk and talks had started becoming a thing, because Ninja Gaiden 3 came out in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And I know, like, Uncharted had a couple of those walk and talk sections before. Like, definitely back in, like, Uncharted 3, you know, when you're just kind of just walking around, which came out in 2011. And I'm just curious to see if, like, there's... I mean, Batman also, I think, had it too. Batman Arkham, I think, had them too. So I'm just trying to, like, nail down when the fuck they actually started happening, because, Jesus Christ, you know, they've been annoying. Also, okay, so this is where the cheese is going to come in. So I'm going to be doing the dash up, rotate, circle, and then hit triangle with scythe. There you go. Yep, that's it. That's all you got to do. So just buy the scythe. I think you have... I don't know if it's a level 2 unlock for this move. But just buy level 2 scythe, and then there you go. Done. Yeah, I don't give a shit. It's Theodore. You can fight him legit if you want, but that's what I did. So, anyway, that's it for today. So, as always, take care, everybody.